recording this as class on assignment 1 plus a general Q&A that hopefully Naledi might have a couple of questions for us. Some other students who will join in have the same. Ideally, of course, all the lecturers are very happy that if you have very specific questions about specific content questions, cases, articles, or whatever else you're engaging with, we're very happy to guide you in that regard as well. And so, any questions on, issues with my modules and things like that? Believe me, if you are struggling with my modules, so are we. And I think that's just something to keep in mind. I am sharing the PowerPoint. Please do let me know if everyone can see it. Can you all see it?
I can see it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will do most, I will talk to the PowerPoint itself. My colleagues, Professor Herter and Advocate Slab, that's Deepa, I have to get this right. Nasla Luba. I'm getting that. If I'm still wrong, please correct me. I have to get this right. I cannot be making another mistake today, at least. We will, they will chip in and add to what I say. The slides are really there just to give it sort of a visual aspect to this presentation. The first question. How to identify sources, where to find the sources, and plagiarism. Do let me know if I disappear from this. I've actually moved places to be where I have better access to internet, so hopefully this will all work out very well. So, amongst the expectations, it is vital for students to understand on their final year, and for us, in terms of the expectations of um, how we want you to engage with the material. So, firstly, there is an understanding on our side that you already have a level of expertise in terms of how to read legal texts. So when we say read, it doesn't mean reading in the common way. Reading for this subject, and also finally a law, um, is very different reading. What we expect you to do is to read the text, to summarize it, to understand the main highlights, to understand the nuances, and to be able to explain that back. And when you are writing arguments, to utilize the sources that we have provided to you on the My Module site. Nandeepa and Professor Hurt, if I could ask you guys to just let everyone in that's joining us, that would be great. Or let me just do it. Is Lebogang. So, sorry. And you have to then set your answers down with references. Of course, we expect you to use the Oscola reference system. That is the School of Law one. You should all be familiar with it, so please utilize it. So it's very, very important to keep all of that in mind. So these are what we think you're already able to do. The format, and you will see that our question answer will have to have an introduction, a discussion, and conclusion. And it's very, very important to know that you have to, if we ask you, does the person have a right, or does the person have the ability to do something, or do they have a case? You have to also, that yes and no is very important as well. You have to do all of the discussion, but you have to conclude by giving us that line there, it says, yes, this person has a case. No, this person, no, the case does not support that. What we do not want
Mr.
unless
Sorry,
specifically
there you are.
asked. We may ask you to do comparisons. You will see in lecture unit 1 and 2, even 3 and 4, there's a lot of discussion of regional stuff, African things, international, where we look at Australia, States. And remember, all of that material that discusses that is given to you on the My Module site. So what we do not want you to do is to go on Google or Bing or wherever and put the question.
Sorry, Mr. Gama, we lost you there.
Oh, sorry. So when you go on Google, you will find that it will give you a lot of references to other cases in other countries. But remember, we have given you a curated list of things. So try and stick to that. And when you use the internet, please do not just use Google. Use Scholar Google Scholar, together with the University of South Africa's library site to get things, because then you will get peer-reviewed articles, cases that are actually important to us in South Africa. So please be very careful how you use the internet. If you just reference things that are not linked to what we are teaching you, that are not peer reviewed, it's not going to have any value. So please, please be very wary of things like that. Even if it's a big law firm like Norton Rose, the personal opinion of even of the director of Norton Rose is not important for our purposes, because he may just be putting forward a client's point of view. So keep these things very, very careful in your head. Do not copy and paste large tracts from
We
You
lost
should
you.
hear me
There
better
you're
now.
back.
I'm just walking to a different room. Sorry, I'm just walking into a different room. And hopefully you can all hear me better. Can everyone hear me better now? Apologies for that.
Yes, we can
Bad
hear you
enough that
clearly. Thank you.
it's bad enough that I have a cold. So I'm not going to belabor this point anymore. If you have any questions, I'll come back to this, but just be very cautious. And I think this to me was quite interesting because I know, and this might seem a little bit too easy to be spending so much time talking about this, but you will need to be able to know what we are asking. The same words can have different meaning depending on the subject. So in law, there are very specific meaning when we say, what does account for something? So here we're asking to explain, clarify, analyze. There's a whole list of these. You will be asked to compare. Here you have to look at similarities and differences, and reach a conclusion. And this is very interestingly close to contrast. And here, but in compare, we are asking for similarity and differences. In contrast, we are only looking at differences. So please go through this list and really understand what we're asking. This may be useful for you, not just for this subject, but for other subjects as well. A lot of the time, of course, we ask for you to discuss, or, it define just doesn't mean just give the exact meaning. In some instances, we'll ask you, it's more than that. We want you to also examine a little bit further. Evaluate really is to see the value of something and assess it. And we illustrate. Please, illustrate means use carefully, thought out examples to clarify things. Justify, and here, of course, we are asking you to tell us why something happened. And summarize, and this is something, of course, you should be doing for all of your articles, for all of your cases. You need to be able to give a concise, clear explanation of what is being discussed there. Know the highlights, omit all the minor details. I mean, the fact that one of the, that the person in in one of the cases, had, it's very important. What was it? Professor Herter, the case on, I've just lost the name in my head, but the gentleman who agreed to taking the job via WhatsApp. The fact that they had communicated via mobile device was very important. It sounds like a minor detail, but that was crucial. The other facts in terms of how he traveled to one place to the other is minor detail that you can omit. So remember, you have to be able to assess what are minor details and what are quite crucial.
That was just to answer your question, the Jafta case, the Jafta versus Umzumvelu.
Yes, the Jafta case. So yeah, so again, both of those details seem quite small, but which one is important? So always remember to read these, and reread them. I mean, I don't know, Professor Herter, Advocate Natsoluba, we probably read and reread a lot of our text that we utilize, isn't that so?
Yes,
also,
for sure.
so yeah. And in terms of how do you then try and answer the question? So you've now understood what is being asked, which is very important. So the reason we want you to understand what is being asked is because you should not be answering the question of your choice, but the question that is actually on paper before you. So that's the first thing. So where do you start? Always start with the textbook. In our case, the extracts that we provide to you. Go and see if there's a case or article that would apply here, or an art, you have legislation and regional stuff as well. Go and see what's being asked, and then go to all of those different folders that you find on my module. And look in those and find. So what you need to do is also remember proper referencing. And here I haven't given you the exact the example here, but for example, if you were to write somebody's article, you write their name, their discussion, what are they discussing, the journal article. Yeah. How to engage? Always put it in your own words, because really what we want to see, and this is quite important, we want to see how much of anything you understand. So go to the sources, study the material, then attempt the question. Try and utilize your own words as far as possible. Of course, if there's legal technical language, you have to use that legal technical language. But go back and see that you haven't copied and pasted what was in the original source, please. And of course, make sure you are putting in correct referencing citation. This is an assignment. We want to see full citations. We want to see footnotes. We want to see bibliography, table of content, if you are able to. That is not so important for assignments. For exams, also, it's a take-home exam, so we will like to see full citations. It's incredibly important. And before we get to plagiarism, I just wanted to get out of here and share And I know that most of you do go to the My Model site, but I just want to show you some very basic things. Sharing that, and I'm going to share after the welcome message. I'm sure you can all see the My Module site. I just wanted to show you. You will see here prescribed reading list, journal articles, prescribed reading list cases, legislation instrument, extracts from books. Everything that is prescribed to you for this course is available on our My Module site. You do not have to go anywhere else. You will find everything on this site. Okay, so please engage with this site as much as possible. I'm going to go back to the presentation. Now, the one thing that we have to talk about, and we'll be talking about this in every single presentation, on assignments, on exams. You have to be very careful of accidental plagiarism, but also, and of course, please do not partake in intentional plagiarism. Firstly, it is poor writing practice. It shows that you are not feeling that you are at a certain level of understanding, and you know, and added to that is the element of dishonesty. And it is a very serious matter. As lawyers, the only tool we have is words and our writing. And we have to have great mastery over it to do our clients to give them the full benefit of our instruction. If you get caught plagiarizing, it will have dire consequences for your career ahead, because you cannot, if plagiarism is taken very seriously in the legal profession, it's not to say that you do not look at templates and you don't go and, there aren't templates of contracts. No one reinvents the wheel, but you have to really put your mind to things and create something that is perfect for your client. You have to personalize it. You have to do all of those things. And we want to make sure that you have already mastered the ability to synthesize information and put forward your view. It is unethical, and therefore it will have an impact on whether you can practice law. So just keep that in mind, please. And no matter what anyone says, I can tell you that as lecturers, myself, Advocate Natsluba, and Professor Herter, we find it fairly easy to pick up plagiarism. It is not that difficult. It's fairly easy to find out if somebody's plagiarizing. What we want to really, again, going back to it, we want to see how much you understand. And this is not, copying and pasting is just not going to cut it. It is not easy. Of course, there's a variety of things. As I right at the start said, there's accidental plagiarism where you forget to put in a footnote. And then there is, intentional plagiarism. But they all fall on that same continuum. So I just want you to be super careful right at the start, so you don't even come close to this. Just remember, whenever you write, go back to your sources and see what you're writing. So that is where you have to give yourself time and space to do your assignments and to do your writing and all of those things. Just as an aside there, completely, you would have noticed that there have been some issues on the My Module system. So do your assignments as early as possible. Try and put it up as, whenever you can. It might be that the system is having some issues, and at least you'll have a few tries in getting it up. Don't do it on the last day, last minute, because then if you run into trouble, firstly, we don't control the system. Okay, just remember that we don't control what happens. Somebody else that does. You can write to assignments and so forth, but we cannot firstly accept any assignments via email. We are not allowed to. All we can do is forward your issues to the appropriate people, but that's it. We don't have, and those are the same people you'll be emailing to. So please do things well in time. Let's continue on. What is it? It's cutting and pasting without acknowledging the source. That's sort of the simplest thing. Using incorrect references or paraphrasing where you just do a control find and you just change a few words here and there. That's still, you have to cite people. Because, all of those articles are well researched. It's a whole process that has to go through before they can be published and peer reviewed and all of those sort of things. So please cite your authorities. Um, and just make sure, remember you are actually signing a declaration as well when you are handing in your assignment. You're saying, I'm not being dishonest. So keep to that, please. And it's basically theft. You're basically taking somebody else's idea and you're saying, well, this is my idea, which is not very good. We want to assess you on your understanding. And please, again, don't copy and paste from the study guide. Definitely not. Don't take, the narrated PowerPoints as if they contain the full amount of information that you needed to understand. Those are guides for you to actually engage with the actual material that you meant to read and study. Okay. They're a good source of guidance, but that's about it. What I will do, what I will also just wanted to talk to you about is the artificial intelligence part of the possible idea of cheating. And I'm just going to go back to this one for it. And as someone who has used ChatGPT, I can tell you that it is very good at saying things in a very authoritative manner, but it is also very much prone to inventing references. And having used it myself just for fun, I can tell you it's very easy to pick up when it's the AI writing and not a person. Please be very wary. That is not the way that you should use it, or that you should even, it's not going to solve things. Just as an aside, there as well, ChatGPT, they gathered information until the end of 2021. Yes, we are now in 2023, that they gave it to understand. And most of that information came from countries like United States, United Kingdom, and Europe. So it is not very, how should I put it? It wouldn't be very specific to what we do here in South Africa. So what must you avoid? Don't do a replace and find, that control, find, control, replace. Please don't do that. We want to see your engagement with the work and your understanding. Do not be use, if you do a copy and paste, believe me, it's also not going to, you have to be able to really go back and check off. There'll be a lot of, checking and rechecking, and you'll end up spending more time going back and forth. And do not copy from an internet source without having read the case or journal article, please. You might find that a lot of, somebody will have a view on the Kettler case. That's one of the assignment question deals with that. Somebody will say, I have given a summary of this, and they've written a nice blog. Please go and read the actual Kettler case before you read that blog article or case note that's just available on the internet that's not peer reviewed, because that might not be the full story. Please. Start with the sources we have given you, and if you add to it, wonderful. I will be very happy to see that. But don't, I'm going to go back to the whole internet source thing. We are looking for peer-reviewed work that you reference. And that means for us in our head, for the reason we keep talking about peer reviewed is that it's blind peer reviewed. The person reviewing it does not know the other person. It is usually peer reviewed by 3 people. It is deemed to be of a certain quality, good enough quality to be published. So, you know, there's a process things go through. Blogs do not go through those. Yes. So please keep very, very close to the, you know, the material. Not saying do not look further. I'm just saying be careful how you go about it. And make sure that whatever you are finding, that you know that you can also find it at the UNISA library. UNISA's library is the biggest library on this continent. So if you are going to find an accredited peer-reviewed article, you will find it in our library. Okay. Sorry, just you know, I get so worried about students just referencing internet sources. I'm gonna stop there. And if you have any questions or queries, we're all here. And of course, before I let students ask questions, I'm going to ask Professor Herter to add to it, as well as Advocate Nslova. Go ahead, Professor Herter.
Thank you, Mr. Gama. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Please have a look at this presentation again once you start preparing for your assignment. And as mentioned, please start early. There are system issues at present, so please don't wait till the very end to do your assignment. And within that context, please follow the instructions that we provide. Don't just because you pressed for time or you have other important things to do, not plan your assignment properly. Start with the instructions to have a clear idea of what you're busy doing while you doing it, and more importantly, even before you start doing it. You must have a clear idea of what you're doing when you start off your assignment. So read the instructions carefully. If there are page limits, then there's no use in writing 2 or 3 pages, basically with background information or what you think should be relevant. Plan your answer appropriately. Look at the question carefully, what is expected of you. And within that context, you will be able to delve down into what we actually expect of you. So read the instructions, read the questions properly, and plan a little bit before you get going on the writing. And then obviously the writing is the important part, where you need to be constantly aware of the referencing and how you write, which is or what you write or include in your assignment, which is what Mr. Gama discussed in quite a bit of detail. Plagiarism tends to, in whatever format it is, whether it's a slavish copy or paraphrasing from your sources or copy and pasting or whatever, all of those are things that tend to creep in once you're in a rush, or once you pressed for time, or once you didn't plan properly or read the question and your resources properly. So that's just general hints, but for any type of work that you need to produce, whether it's the exam or the assignment, in this case, please just follow those basic guidelines of studying, research, and writing before you just jump into it and get going, because your answer will most probably not be as accurate as we expect, or you might be giving away some valuable marks if you just spent a little bit more time on actually looking at the question properly and planning your answer before you start drafting your answer. So that's just a few general remarks, but I think it's rather important before you start with your assignment answer. Be clear on what you want to say and how you're going to get to saying that.
Thank you, Professor Herter. Advocate Natsaluba.
I think Advocate Ntuluba mentioned that she might be involved in another meeting. That might be
Oh dear.
wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, gosh. No, that's fine. Lebogang, Naledi, do you guys have any questions for us?
Yes, Naledi, we see your hand is up.
Uh, good day, lecturers. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about, I'm not sure if it's appropriate, in regards to question A. Because I've been going through the journal articles. I just wanted to be specific about the ones that I have been reading, which is, I think it's Papadopoulos, Swales, and Glady. Regarding those three, is it correct to discuss the question in regards to those articles and then adding on to the different legislations like the Poppy Act and so forth? Because I'm not sure how this, because I do get now you explained you have an introduction, discussion, and a conclusion. So are you arguing certain journal articles with your own perspective, or are you supporting either one of them? Or I don't know. I'm not sure how we're supposed to answer the discussion question. Thank you.
Yes, sure. I understand what your question is. The point is that we want you to look at those articles because, in essence, the approaches might differ in minimal ways, but the basis of what they're about is essentially the same. So you take that as your starting point, and then you can add on to it. You can, but your foundation of the answer would be your primary resources, which are those articles you refer to. So the legislation that they discuss, the basic principles, for example, the definitions of certain concepts, they will be uniform in all of those publications. So you use the publications as your starting point and as your foundation of drafting the rest of your questions. And then it's up to you, as long as it's properly motivated and properly referenced. There is no ideal answer, but you need to work from a base or a platform that is justifiable and factually correct. So that's where you use the articles and the other resources for. And then in drafting your answer, you may then focus on what you regard as being important or even have a contradictory view. But we want to clearly see, whatever your approach is that you have an intimate knowledge of what those sources stated about the particular question or issue, which will be constant in terms of either interpretation or in terms of legislation. I hope that sort of makes it a little bit clearer.
Yes. No, thank you so much, Professor Hurt. I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Goma. Do
Lebogang?
you want to add something to that?
No, no, I think you've covered it. Because I'm always a bit wary about us answering it. I think you were very diplomatic in 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 answering and skirting perhaps the more sort of direct response on the actual content. Lebogang, do you have any questions?
Good day. I don't particularly have any questions. The only questions I would have would be asking you about the assignment questions. But then Naledi asked about the articles. I see that I've been reading the correct articles, so I'm good.
No, glad to hear that.
Yes.
And of course, the learning units 1 through to 4, the narrated PowerPoints for that are now up. So that sort of covers, I think, most of what you're looking at. So that should also
Yes.
help.
And thank you again for putting up the links that have sound now.
Yeah, no, and I kept, I don't know what was happening between myself and my modules. We were not listening to each other. Um, so I'm glad to have finally managed to do that.
Thank you so much.
We will be putting up the others as well as the term goes on to make sure you've got everything. Professor Herter will do, I think, the next few, and then I will tackle taxation right at the end. And I think that will be, um, those the idea is to try and provide you with more direct instructions in these live classes and assistance, because of course we are a fully online module. That's the first thing we do ask you. If you remember, your assignments are worth a substantial amount of your mark. 49% of your mark comes from the assignments. And I just want to say this for the recording and for everyone. I want to make this point. It is essential you attempt both assignments. It is essential to get exam entrance for this subject. You have to do both assignments. Firstly, it is just logical because it counts for 49%, but it's also compulsory. So just remember that. I just want to emphasize that, Professor Herter, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, that's terribly important. Even though we mention it numerous times, we still get students that receive a good mark for the first assignment, or they rushed for dealing with the second assignment, or whatever the case may be. And at the end of the day, they do not understand why they do not have admission to the exam. And that's purely because they only submitted answers to one of the assignments. So that we must make very clear.
I think at every opportunity.
Yes, every opportunity we will say this so that everyone is aware that if you submit only one assignment, then you will not have admission to the exam and you will not have a mark to be able to pass this module.
Yeah.
Yes. So please
Yeah,
do both.
please. Yes. It'll make your life, and really, if it counts for 49% of your mark, it just increases your chances of doing well overall. It's an excellent way of attempting the questions. It's an excellent way of checking if you understand the material. Please, this is very, very important. Professor Herter, I don't have much else to say. I think those were my parting shots. Would you like to wrap it up for us? And if Naledi and Lebogang are okay, we can end the class. There aren't any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gama, for your presentation today. It was really expertly done. Thank you so much for your guidance. Yes, I don't have much to add apart from just think about your writing, plan beforehand, look at the questions, look at the instructions. Don't just get writing. Plan before you start writing. Read before you start thinking about your answer. Have a clear idea before you start with your assignment, what you want to say or how you want to structure your your answer. And I'm sure then the questions will make a lot more sense to you, and your ultimate assignment that you submit will be of a good quality in order to receive a good mark. We're looking forward to receiving good marks and marking all of your assignments. Thank you. That's all from my side, and thank you for those attending, and all the best with the first assignment then.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming through. Thank you, Naledi. Thank you, Lebogang.
Okay, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
I'm gonna stop recording, and I will put this up immediately.